Hi, and welcome back to Gavins Sonex B. Well, this is the Christmas catch-up video for 2024, and I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible, but quite a lot has happened, as you'll see. Firstly, yes, I'm still here. Yes, I'm still alive, and yes, I'm going to finish my Sonex B. Not in the timescale that I originally had in mind, but it will be finished. And thank you to all those people who've sent me messages concerned why I haven't made any videos since April. This will become clear as we get through this video. But yes, thank you very much, particularly Andy Gaunt and Dan, anyway, in America. Thank you for all your comments, and I try to answer each one when they come in. So why haven't I made much progress on the Sonex since April? Well, it's been one of those years. As some of you will know, back in October 2023, just over a year ago, I was in hospital having some cancer removed, and I was making a good recovery from that into the new year, and started to do some work on the Sonex again. But unfortunately, in January, I very stupidly wore the wrong shoes to go shopping, slipped over in the rain just inside the entrance of the local supermarket, and tried to bend my right leg sideways. And unfortunately, I tore something in my knee. And that meant that I couldn't kneel down. Well, I could hardly walk. Couldn't really kneel down, couldn't lift anything, and that kind of stopped me from doing anything then. And then after that, I went karting with a friend of mine, spun in the middle of the track and got T-boned by somebody else, and cracked or broke a couple of ribs on my left side, which meant I couldn't do much either. And then following that, in July, I had a hernia operation for a small hernia on my stomach, and that put me out of action. I wasn't allowed to lift anything or do anything for a while. And in between that, Katie went into hospital for 4 weeks for her second hip replacement as well, which meant I had to man the fort here and deal with all the guests on my own. And then, unfortunately, in the late summer, found out that some of the cancer was still inside me somewhere, and I had a couple of bad blood test results back, and ended up having to go for radiotherapy for 6 weeks from this October 2024 through to just a couple of weeks ago. I finished. Had to do 6 weeks of every day toing and froing, an hour to the hospital, an hour back in the taxi ambulance, and radiotherapy. Also had some hormone therapy squirted into me as well, which is not very nice, because it really screws your hormones up, and I just haven't been me. But all that's finished, and hopefully over the next few weeks I will return to being the normal me. And hence I'm starting to think about getting back onto the project again. I have made a little bit of progress, but I'll show you what I've done in a little while. However, one of the worst things that happened was that in late August, well, I'll rewind a little bit. As you probably know, I have another aircraft. It's a French Super Guépard with a Rotax 912 ULS engine in it. And I basically rent it to the local aero club at Jonzac, and they use it for training ULM pilots, ultralight pilots. And unfortunately, on the 28th of August, one of the pilots who has got a lot of hours, he's a similar age to me, and has flown for many years, unfortunately made a small error on his approach to a local airfield, which is called Centerstep, and the aircraft ended up looking a little bit like this. And as you can see, it's had a runway excursion. It went off the end of the runway on landing, and this was because he cut the downwind a bit short. On base, was too close to the end of the runway, and didn't give himself enough time to get the aircraft down onto the ground, landed too far down the runway and ran out of room, and it ended up in the bushes at the end of the runway. Centerstep is an interesting little airfield. It's a grass strip, and it's located right on the banks of the Gironde estuary. And there's an exclusion zone out in the estuary because there's a nuclear power station on the other side of the estuary. And there's also a, I think it's either a gas or fuel storage depot next door to the airfield, which means there's an exclusion zone immediately next to the airfield. And then there's a chateau that does some rather nice wine, which you're also not allowed to fly over, on the other side of the airfield. So it makes for an interesting, very tight approach at low level over the water, and it's a tricky one to land at, because it's not that long, but I've been there a few times, and it is possible. So once we got there and inspected the aircraft, it was quite extensively damaged and couldn't be flown. The propeller was broken, although the engine wasn't running when it impacted the ground, which was a good thing. And so we took the wings off the aircraft and arranged for a trailer, and a couple of the guys from the aero club volunteered to basically drive it or tow it on the trailer down to the original manufacturers, Aero Services, who are located at Villefranche-du-Rouergue, which is not far from Toulouse. And it took them, I think in total, to get it onto the trailer and trailer it down there, about 12 hours in total. It was a lot of work, and obviously they weren't able to go very fast down the motorway. Once it got to Aero Services, they took it to pieces. It had to have it's got a steel frame with fabric covering, and they had to cut some of the steel frame, re-weld it, and sort it out. And it was a big job to repair it. Whilst it was there, I had some upgrades done to it. So had the undercarriage, main undercarriage, changed for carbon fibre. Upgrade on the wheels to bigger wheels for landing on rough grass airstrips. New handle for the or mechanism for the flaps, which makes it easier to put the flaps on and off, and a number of other things. They changed the fuel system and all sorts of other bits and pieces. So not only was it repaired, but it was upgraded at the same time. And I flew down there in a Ninja that we borrowed to go and collect it with Frederick, who's another member of our club. And we did some flight testing. The chief flight tester guy gave us a ride in it, showed us all the new improvements, and then we flew it back to Jonzac, and then the next day returned the Ninja to Royan, which is not that far away, and then back to Jonzac in the Super Gepard. So it's all repaired now and flying again, and that's good. So where were we at the last video? Well, looking at my notes here, these are my notes. Last time I was trying to do the baffles, realised that I couldn't complete the baffles until I put the cowling on, and I was contemplating how to do the cowling. Well, there's a long story about that, and in the end I've kind of messed it up, and I've got some glass fibring to do in order to fix the cowling, because it's not, well, it fits, but it's not good enough. So here we are out in the garage with the Sonex. It's been sitting in here languishing for the last 8 months without me, and now it's time to get on and finish it, because I want to fly it. And there's not long now. We've just gone past the shortest day. It's the 23rd of December today. So the evenings are getting lighter from now onwards. The weather will be getting warmer in a couple of months' time, and it'll be time to fly again. So need to get on and finish it. There's not a huge amount to do. It basically comes down to finishing the cowling, then finishing the baffling, wiring the engine compartment and the back of the instrument panel, and rigging the wings. And that is it. That's all that's left to do. I have no more parts to put on the aircraft. I've completed pretty much everything on the engine that I need to complete. So got to get on with it, got to finish it. So what does it look like, the cowling? It looks a bit like this. Now, this is kind of the first fit, although actually this is probably about the fourth fit really, but I did have some problems with it. And if you remember from the previous videos, the instructions tell you to make a former to go where the propeller is, and basically that positions the front of the top cowling and bottom cowling in the right place. And you're looking for obviously a gap between the propeller and the cowling, which we've got, and that should be consistent all the way around, which it is. And if I just whip the propeller off a second, I'll show you the gap around the prop hub. So there's the propeller off, and as you can see, if I move around, the gap is consistent all the way around as well. And the nice thing is it's really solid. It doesn't move. It feels very, very solid. So I started off by actually fitting the bottom cowling, and I think this was a mistake because when I got the bottom cowling where I thought it was in a good position, and then I drilled all the holes for the rivets and got it secured by its 3 pieces of hinge to the aircraft. I then decided to have a go at the top cowling, and I couldn't get the top cowling to fit properly with the bottom cowling, particularly around the front area. And I had all sorts of issues with it, really. So I then realized that actually the top cowling can only go in one place. It has to, let's turn the camera around. It has to be attached across here, and that can't change. And it has to be attached, well, it's not attached, but the former holds it in position here, and that actually dictates the position of the top cowling, and there's nothing you can do. So then I took the bottom cowling off and just did the top cowling. Now the only other problem I found was that with the former on, or the propeller, because the former is the same diameter as the propeller, was getting the cowling on and off, because as soon as you try and lift the front edge, it kicks out and hits the former or the propeller before you can actually get it out from underneath the top of the fuselage, because basically it's in underneath here to this black line here. And so to get this off, you've got to be able to slide it out, but you can't slide it out because the propeller's in the way. And I have got no idea how this is going to be resolved, whether you just have to bend everything or what, I don't know. The firewall does slope away, so it's possible that by undoing these fastenings and allowing this to drop, that you basically get more gap to be able to pull this backwards, lift the front up, and then slide it out. I have no idea. If anybody's done this and knows how this is supposed to work, please let me know, because at the moment I can't see how it works. But anyway, so then once I'd fitted that, I then reattached the bottom cowling, and everything was great until this. I had to trim all this to fit together, and it fits together quite nicely, until I got round to this side, and I have got a massive gap now here running all the way down. Forgive the this is just temporarily there just to hold the thing in place at the moment, but there is a gap now all the way down, and can't really do anything about that, because you can't move this backwards, because otherwise it puts the gap out here, and a tiny little bit of movement over here results in a massive movement over here. So what I'm going to do is, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to take measurements of basically how much I've got to modify this, and I also trimmed too much back over here as well, and I think the trim line runs through this fixing point here underneath, and I've already cut it off, so I've got to basically extend this a little bit and then trim it off again. Same on this side here, I've got to extend it a little bit and then trim it all off again. So I've got some glass fibering to do, but it is there and it kind of fits. I'm not very happy. I mean, the other side's okay, but I'm not very happy with this tapering joint across here, which again I can't do anything about because that point is fixed, this is fixed, and it's obviously just been trimmed a little bit shy, so I may well extend that as well, and then retrim it again with some glass fibre. I've got some glass fibre matting, tape and stuff ready to go, and that's not a problem. I'm going to have to do it in another room because it's too damn cold out here for glass fibre work. Really need it over 15 degrees, and it's about 7 in here. And also you don't want it damp either, because glass fibre doesn't like the damp when it's setting. So what else have I done? I've come up with this odd solution over here for trimming the baffles. Now you remember, if I can get it to stay there for 5 seconds, the baffle looks a bit like that when it's attached to the engine. Well, this is my baffle trimming device, and it works a little bit like this. You may not be able to see this, but there is a line running up here, and this is basically where the baffle is underneath. And then I've marked a line across here, which is the back of the baffle, and then I've marked another line up here, which is the other side of the baffle. So to be able to cut the baffle to fit on the other side of this with a gap so that the rubber seal can go on top, I have made this, and if you sit this on the aircraft on the line, it follows the contour of the cowling. So theoretically, I can take the cowling off and use this as a guide to cutting the other side. Obviously, I've got to add on the gap that I want, the thickness of the glass fibre, etc., to make it work, but it's about the closest I can think of getting it. Trusty old piece of stick and cardboard. Once I've cut the two sides of the baffle, I've then got this former, which sits on there a bit like that, and that will then give me the profile for the back. And hopefully that's going to work. I'll let you know. It'll be in a video in the not too distant future. What else can I tell you? I think that's about it. I've actually put a little greenhouse heater inside my aircraft. It's sitting on the floor in the on the pilot's side, and it's a little 45-watt oil heater for greenhouses, and it's sitting on the floor inside the cockpit just to try and keep some heat in there, because we are going into the cold part of the winter now, even though, as I say, the days are getting longer and summer is coming, believe me. And so that's really where I am. So I've got 4 different things to do basically, which ultimately will result in a finished airplane. And just to recap, it is finish the cowling, sort the baffling out, do the wiring at the front end of the aircraft, because as you probably remember, the rear end is all done, and mount the wings and fit the wings on. So that's all looking good. It's all looking achievable. As long as I can stay out of hospital for 5 minutes, I think we'll get there. So in time-honoured tradition, I'll say Happy Christmas and have a good new year, and I'll see you in 2025 for a few more instalments of Gavins Sonex B. More later.